All right, folks, welcome back. I got to give a big shout out to Rames real quick. He donated me $10 on my personal account, so that's kind of cool to see. Thank you kindly for that, you generous son of a gun. And, of course, I just want to say we've been really bad at doing sub shout-outs. Quick shout out to the last three, El Baracho, DJ Chris Spear, Foreigner Child, and now Gilgo, or Gilg Zero. We're getting back into it, guys. We had like an accidental like half a month off of casting, and I'm not able to like look at chat and observe it the same way I used to. It's definitely taking some time getting used to doing this again. So please know that we still love you, even if we don't actually say anything the next couple days. But anyways, you're watching the TING Open Season 2 qualifiers for Korea. We're close to the qualifying round. The winner of this will play a qualifying match. But in the bottom left side of Dust Towers, he's got to get through this Protoss first. It is going to be the Blue Terran, MVP's Forte.
In the top right, as the red Protoss, it is Billowy.
So I don't want to discuss what is like potentially rumors, but there's some discussion about like whether casters should be saying team names or not. And I don't know about your thoughts on it, but mine are pretty much like if I remember the team, or if it's like right there in front of me, I've got no problem saying the team name. But otherwise, it's kind of like, yeah, if anyone forgets, it's usually not intentional. If you didn't see BC's tweets the other day, I don't want to get into it. But TLDR, some people were suspecting that DreamHack was like not announcing team names on purpose. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I actually never considered that, but I guess because if the sponsors don't line up and stuff.
So that's the thing. I have no clue if that was done on purpose or not. That's why I don't want to breed into the rumor part of it. But for me, I'm just saying, like, it was an interesting discussion to see on Twitter because I was kind of like thinking, well, I only ever don't do it if I like forget or if it's a mouthful.
Yeah, basically.
If your team name is Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, I'm not introducing your team name every single game.
Yeah, exactly. It is mostly like, okay, is it Tream? Exactly. Is it true esports or Team Extreme Supremacy? Okay, it doesn't matter. Let's just say the guy's name.
Yeah.
Or is it just the case where it's also just for me like you can vary the intros that way to make them a little bit more interesting. Like he's MVP, or he's just Billowy.
Yeah. So I bring this up because some people are discussing again Billowy's history of teams, and frankly, I don't know what team he's currently on.
Yeah, I think if we do like find it out, like if there's an honest question, then it's totally liable to consistently like say the team name. But I want to also note, as Eki just asked about the guy Sosongnim in the
top half
the bracket. Yeah, that is super. So we didn't remember that yesterday when he played, and he ended up losing really quickly, so we didn't have to. But no. He has played before under that name. He's super duper. So it's two Protosses, potentially.
Potentially, which would be a very big turnaround because last season we saw Reality and Alive and everybody just knock the shit out of the Protoss. Like, PvP looked very different. And what's funny is there really hasn't been a lot of balance changes from last season to this season. I mean, last season we had already the Adept nerf and whatnot. So it's really interesting to see just how much that's shifted with all the big heavy hitting Koreans being in China playing in whatever that tournament is. So yeah, we don't know what actual tournament they're playing in China. We just know that many of our friends from Korea, Patience, Ryong, and others have flown out of country to play over there.
Yeah. So
which actually makes me wonder, like, how big of a deal is this tournament if it's got a big enough prize pool to attract people like that? You think Blizzard would be advertising it?
If it's less than $10,000, but they are, free flight, free hotel, it's the only tournament they're going to get to other than GSL, SSL, Pro League, and whatnot.
That's true.
So I can definitely imagine either that, yes, it's actually a lot of money, but China be China and no one like advertise for them, or it's a low enough amount of money and they just need to go over there and get whatever money they can.
Well, regardless,
anyway.
we wish them all the best of luck. We hope we'll see them in the next qualifier for all those other guys. But yeah, today actually leaves the opportunity then for what is potentially two Protoss. Now, Billowy and Forte, TVP, there's a lot of ways this go. I will say I'm a little bit sad we don't see more people adapting to, and this is weird that I would say a foreigner first on this, right? But like, watching the way Neve and Puck play this matchup, I really enjoy seeing like the harassment, the disruptors, the warp prism usage above all else. It doesn't feel like a lot of Protoss are like really heading that direction though, and a lot of what we see ends up being just like, oh, look, it's mass play stalkers and adepts. Did this work? I don't know. Did the Terran have enough Liberators? If yes, then no. And if no, then yes.
Amazing. Well, we also do occasionally see pushes like this from Forte, where they are a little bit a little bit quick, right? Because he's moving out before his medevacs are out and before combat shields would be done. And that can be very dangerous, especially if you meet stalkers. They does have stim, but they also have blink. So that might, go better for Billowy. He has to be very careful when they stim. But then you just run away, and that's automatically like damage on every single Marine. This is why he would need those medevacs, which should be, yeah, there they are. They should be boosting over right now. And seeing only blink stalkers right now should be an opportunity for Forte to take a pretty good trade with absolutely no adepts. And if the stalkers are out of position because Widowmines went into the main base, absolutely go into that third base. He's waiting though. Stop waiting.
Well, Widowmines in the main don't kill much. Almost get a stalker there by accident. This is a problem though, because like while the stalkers were all completely distracted and looking in the wrong direction, that's when the stimming should have happened. Now the stalkers are here to respond, and I mean it's still a good army out of Forte. Don't get me wrong. It just missed a great opportunity.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, when they were all out of position, that could have been a bunch of probes killed, including Liberator, including the Widowmines. But now still trading with the Stalkers, because it is bio. I mean, there's no Marauders in here, but it's still bio with medevacs, and the Stalkers are having a very tough time.
Yeah,
actually, no Photon Overcharge is so much more surprising.
So, he actually did overcharge, but it's the top of the ramp, and he had missed the pylon because it got sniped so quickly at the third. So, I mean, this Liberator got more damage done by accident, by everyone just kind of forgetting about it up here, than the actual Bioforce did, but that was still a great trade out of Forte. Like, he killed so many Stalkers with that attack, but more importantly, and more noticeably for me, 3 medevacs get out alive. That doesn't happen too often.
Right. And the lack of the Photon Overcharge is really a lot to blame for that. Usually it's the one that tears down the medevacs, especially if you have 2 or 3 pylons available for multiple Photon Overcharges. But Billowy, I mean, basically dropped the ball on the defense. It was only Blink Stalkers, and only Blink Stalkers will never do that well against one of my drops. And it was also multi-pronged harassment. They just didn't quite have the perfect split of units, the perfect reaction to every single one. And luckily, his observer sees this, so his Stalkers should be in position. The scan shows the Stalkers moving. That's still such a, it's not a ton of adepts. They don't have upgrades. Certainly something he could trade with.
Well, tank shot's gonna do an okay job helping zone
yeah,
this.
Don't care about a tank.
But the blinks used to take care of the tanks. There's nothing to blink up to the main to respond to this. So he's gonna pick off the Robo. That's not bad. He should be able to still pick up and get out of here. Love this here. Leaves like 1 Marauder to distract. Kind of worth it at the end of the day. 2 more medevacs set up over here, and this is where Billowy, I don't know if he's going to have what it takes to respond to 2 different locations simultaneously. One for certain he can clean up, but can he do the other?
If his units are in position, this is exactly what Blink Stalkers are great for, right? But if the units of Forte ever clump up together, these adepts still aren't that scary. I guess they have +1 armor, but not the weapon upgrade yet. But okay, it doesn't matter if his Blink Stalker's not in position. So the pylons, yeah, they could just be run around. They could be focus fired. The Stalkers, you can actually tangle with the Stalkers if you really wanted to, but he is just dropping for now. But here's most of his army now, including Liberators. It's hitting as the upgrades finally finish. +1 Resident Glaives, but it's still not a very big Protoss army.
Well, so this was kind of important. Like, Forte was trading very well to begin with, but he was also still advancing behind this. All Billowy's done is put out more production for more adepts and more stalkers. He hasn't moved on towards storms or disruptors or anything like that. Like, the immortals only just came out because the Robo was sniped. So there's so many ways that Forte got leads on this, but oh, this is so scary. The adept's going to finish up here into a couple Widowmine shots, maybe. Hits the stalkers. Nope. Marauders, though, should be able to power through what's left. Even though the Liberators go down, the Bioforce is still 70 army supply, over 36 for the Protoss.
Yeah, that's pretty good. The Photon Overcharge scares him for now, and I think also there's the fact that his units were a little bit weak, so he pulls back, but I don't think he's pulled back all the way. Yeah,
I almost feel like if he gives Billowy too much breathing room, that is going to be a big mistake, because that's a lot of momentum suddenly lost that he had just absolutely accrued over these attacks, but still that army supply dominates pretty hardcore. Let's also not forget Liberator's going to have range for round 2. We got 2 starports up even. I mean, Forte is taking a 4th base. It's like in base, but he'll take a 4th base in a moment or two, and this is looking really great for our Terran.
Oh, it looks like he's absolutely going to win. In fact, I can't see Billowy winning right now, as bleak as that may sound. So Forte's actually going to take the base to the north, which is not what I expected, but either way, he's constantly scanning when there aren't observers, which makes him look a little bit silly, but he really wants to get the observers. It's actually just a problem of Billowy not to have
I mean,
observers
well,
on
it's
the
funny because he
army.
sniped the robo. He's got to know that there's not going to be that many observers in the first place, right? Like, you killed the thing that produces them. But Moonlight Memories just subbed to the channel. Get some hype because new subs are always hype. Thank you so much for that sub. Adepting to scout the army in the middle of the map. 3 liberators at a time. I'm interested more so in the fact that he chose to make a wave of Vikings. But regardless of that, the army still just looks fantastic. We actually have him moving for extended Thermaland, something we don't see too often because Colossus are not dead. They've actually got a very important part of the matchup, but they usually don't get played or don't get the opportunity to get played.
They still need a lot of buffer. In fact, even more so, really, as their damage has been reduced. But I don't think Billowy has that right now. I mean, we could go all day about how like Colossus are kind of almost the counter to Liberated, especially on Dusk Towers. But first, actually, this drop went really quite poorly.
Yeah, I know we've phrased it like that a couple times, and I feel like every time we do, I want to say counter seems like the wrong word, but it's not too far off. I guess response, maybe. It's nitpicky, but you're right. Like it does force out a very different game when they come into play. So this first Colossus finally spawning, it's not going to do much. But once you got 2 or 3, that's when it starts really shaping up.
Well, with that drop going pretty poorly, I was a little worried, but Forte still has a 40 army supply lead, and I'm not even if he does have 2 or 3 Colossus, it's gonna have to be in a good position. And unfortunately, there's not too many chokes for Billowy to abuse here on Dusk Towers. So a concave could take on the army, but there's a bit more buffer. There's immortals as well, so the marauders are actually going to get, cut down. No thanks, not much thanks to the Colossus, which is that cool skin.
Yeah, he's using the Tal'Darim one, which you guys may see more of in the future. That's all I can really say about that.
Oh, that was a bad. Oh, geez. The Adepts went in without any backup there, so that is the fodder, very important fodder for the army. He has to back off. Another Colossus is on the way, but Forte's army is just looking way too big. Now up 50 army supply. That's pretty damn big. Really does not need to wait for more anti-air. A concave could probably kill this Colossus, just stimming on top of it.
Cannon fodder should never be misunderstood as expendable. Like, you still need those adepts to die, but in time with your bigger units, not separate on their own. So, as we see, it's Stalkers on the front line initially. Marauders get a lot of really good hits in there. The Colossus are really a non-issue in the back. The Immortals are all that remains, and this army for the Protoss just disappears, and Billowy is going to take a huge nosedive here in this first game.
Yep. GG.
GG. Well, congratulations to Forte. Takes a very nice game, number 1. We talked about potentially 2 Protoss, but what we will most likely have is at least the TV, at this rate, the TvT semifinals down here. Top half of the bracket has PvZ with Sleep versus Super. That's waiting for us, though. That cannot play without us, so we'll probably cast that one after this. But like we said, we'll take a small break. Nothing too long, though, because we know it's kind of already getting late-ish in Korea. We don't want to hold these guys up forever. But it is only best of 3s. No double elimination, no best of 5s. Nothing too crazy.
No finals to cast either.
Yeah, that's true too. That is always so weird when you have brackets that look like that. You're like top 2 qualify, top 4 qualify. Anyways, let me just load up the intro. Okay, I am good on my end whenever they are.
Great.
Cool. All right, we'll see you guys here in just a sec. Ruins of Endion for map number 2. TVP continues here for the TING Open. All right, folks, welcome back. Game number 2. We got a bit of chatty chat going on right now. I gotta tell you, I can't wait to see the emojis come over, because I want to see people like True and Patience BM each other, but with like poop spams and silly faces. Did you actually see, before doing the intros, did you see that Reddit thread that was put up for the new level of meta BM with the emojis?
I did see that, yes.
That was super clever. I really enjoyed that one, actually.
Yeah.
At any rate, welcome back. Game number 2, currently leading up 1-0 in the bottom left side. We do have the blue Terran player, Forte, aka Salvation.
In the bottom right, as the red Protoss, it's Billowy on a Freak of Freaks. I probably looked that up.
There you go. Of course, you would be on the newest Kespa team. Why the heck not?
Yeah, of course.
So, actually, before we talk about TVP, we haven't really talked about the sponsors for this too much, or specifically the sponsor TING. Now, I'm not going to try and sell you guys on the phone company stuff, but I just want to actually report on how Season 1 went and why Season 2 is happening, all this good stuff. A lot of people signed up for TING. More than they expected, which is great, which is why we get to do that sort of bonus TING of the Hill between seasons. That was with a lot of really fun games with Neeb over there. And they actually picked up Neeb as a player between seasons. But BaseTradeTV specifically got enough of you guys signed up for TING that we got a Season 2. And the same offer is going to persist as we go into Season 2. That if you'd like to see a Season 3, the more people that sign up for TING will make that happen. So just a quick little shout out to bttv.ting.com, guys. Make sure to go down there and check out the website. Sign up if you want to use TING. Save esports all at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Ruins of Endion, and we do see that Forte was trying to go for a one-base build, and Billowy saw it too, so he bothered to gas steal. That's not only going to tell him, well, potentially change up Forte's one base, but it's also going to tell him exactly what the one base might look like. Like when What a Mind shows itself, you know, it's not going to be like some type of weird, like, one-base tank push. Liberator might fly over it, although it's unlikely, as 3 Marines are already on top of that gas geyser, but I think that was certainly worthwhile. Doesn't surprise me that it's a one-base build. It doesn't surprise me that it's a one-base What a Mind drop either, as it is Ruins, and it's close by air. Those medevacs can get costs very quickly.
Well, not only that, but like the What a Mind is more of like a consequence now too. Like he may not have intended to just simply open with the, even though it's like the most common turn opener, right? But he may not have intended for it to go this direction, but was forced into it. It's the only real option off of that gas steal, which is very, very annoying.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that after the What a Mind drop, what do you do? And that's, you know, dependent on if you could get your second gas geyser or not. And, well, he couldn't. So this isn't the worst, though. Like, this isn't the worst opener to have. It still can be tricky to defend against because your robo is not going to be, like, you know, the earliest or... Less about the robo, I guess, it's already done, but more about, like, the amount of units you have or the amount of pylons you have, too. This early on is going to be vastly different than when it's a 2-base What a Mind drop. So it's still going to require a bit more footwork, I guess, from Forte to actually make this do any damage. I think he might have to just hope for killing units as opposed to actually getting those probes.
Well, Stim coming down over here from behind this. That's timed up pretty nicely. It's so awkward when we watch a lot of these TVPs and they get that really, really late Stim and you're like, what were you doing, man? But meanwhile, the drop not getting a whole heck of a lot done right now. That What a Mind's actually questionable because you want to be able to put that in the mineral line, obviously, in a best case scenario. But
Yeah.
I think he realized like that opportunity wasn't going to be there, so just backs away. I would have actually liked to have seen him take that fight to the ramp and do that move where, oh, he's going to scamp at the observer. Nice pick off.
Mm-hmm.
But that move, you know, you put the What a Mind at the top of the ramp, you kind of zone out with the Marines, you force out a stalker. Timing was kind of lost here for Forte to do that, but it would have been cool to see. Now, he does advance forward, production picking up, 3 racks finishing up, add-ons coming down at the wazoo, but also, most importantly, actually got a natural base.
Mm-hmm. The fact that the 3 stalkers were already on top of the medevac, I think, really, like, you know, forced them to rethink that. Because if there's 2 stalkers in one base and one of the other, then you can go ahead and tango with the fighting units, but... Still, having a drop is not the worst thing, but certainly being denied like that is not great. Billowy also knows that this is just going to be harassment. Like, if there's not going to be a follow-up of a push of some type, or even Liberators, then a 3rd base is not out of the question, and certainly on Ruins of Endion even a little bit safer, because you can break down those rocks need be. So that's what he gets. It's already about halfway done, and of course getting everything else you need is Protoss, Twilight Council, and Forge.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious if this will just be straight to Blink or not. With the Forge, I'm imagining it's Resonating Glaives and +1, but having a bit of mobility and seeing that you got Forte, someone who's willing to drop, Blink might not be a bad option, just so you've got the ability, the capability to respond. Especially with the 3rd base being taken, you're going to be stretched really thin between your main, natural, and 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go, Blink.
Yeah.
I like Blink a lot for this. But while this goes on, we do have 2 drops heading through the south side. Well, I did pick up an observer earlier. There are still 2, in fact 3 out to scout for this.
This drop is already being met, but there's no blink yet. I don't even think there's a Guardian Shield yet. Sentry's just warped in. Foot overcharge will certainly be helpful and, in fact, needed. Want to go after the Sentry. I didn't quite get it.
Oh, that got risky. Okay, a little bit hot as he backs away. Cool little fact about the observers, by the way, or not related to this game per se. Obviously, I've been playing a lot of co-op and catching up, and I maxed out all my commanders before Abathur went live, and I had not really touched the Protoss ones. But the observers and the overseers in that game have like a really cool option where you can like force them to be stationary, so they can't move anymore, but they get like 50% extra vision. I really wish that was something you could do in StarCraft 2 normal. Because I don't know about you, when I'm off racing, I've got a real bad habit of like grabbing my observers by mistake or F2ing my overlords from time to time.
I do
Or
not have that
overseers,
mistake.
excuse me.
I know you have that mistake.
Well, still, the 50% vision for things that you want to be stationary would be so sick. Like the observers down here, for example.
Yeah,
Like, you're
no,
never moving those, like not intentionally at
I
least.
get what you're saying, yeah. But I guess speaking of observers, Billowy has really improved, I guess, over his last game, where unfortunately either his observers were being sniped or scanned, and he tried his best to send out like maybe an adept or two to replace observers out in the map, but unfortunately he couldn't have them everywhere, and he was getting dropped, unfortunately, like a little too much. Now his observer coverage is pretty perfect for the map, but it still has to be a case where he has to have the right amount of units at every single base, and he might still have trouble with that.
By the way, Billowy has, well, great vision, also amazing income. I just looked at the graph a moment ago, and Forte doesn't even stand a chance at like keeping up with this macro game at this rate.
Yeah.
Like, this is really worrisome because he has to do damage with these drops, and he's being shut down at every turn. Third base denied,
bad.
main base denied. Like, this is not looking good for him.
It's not. No, it's not. But his main push should still have a bit of a punch to it. He's going to have 2 tanks and I guess Rally more over on the way, and he'll have 1-1. And I guess as well as Marauder slow. But he's also potentially going to have a decent position. Let's see if Billowy could actually stop him from getting it. Basically over here. So the fact that Billowy's already over here might make Forte a little worried, but it's not that big of an army. Forte still has a very good army supply, good upgrades in a couple of seconds here. But Billowy's best choice was absolutely to fight, like meet him halfway and try and take a good fight and not let those tanks up against those ridges.
Man, that's such a good pun, but you kept talking. Now it's lost forever.
Yeah, doesn't that suck?
Way to be on point and actually commentate on the game. Way to do your
Yeah.
job really well. I hate you. Alright, tank's gonna land, and unfortunately, well, this army looked really scary initially. The adepts are holding, and Billowy just is not gonna be faced with it. With the immortals especially finally getting on top of the marauders, getting on top of the tanks, like, okay, we're gonna see some leapfrog action, but it's just too much Protoss to deal with.
It is, yeah. The immortals were very, very helpful, but really, like, the adepts soaking so much damage was very helpful. And I really thought that Forte was going to be a bit of a longer game, like, you know, try and siege up that third base and drop and kind of play around with that. But yeah, I guess he saw an opportunity to push forward and maybe thought it was his only opportunity. It was close to working. There's still an even army supply, but unfortunately has not worked yet. More medevacs going down. Oh, that Widowmine doesn't have an observer on it. There we go.
Widowmine did get a nice hit, almost like a mini EMP, but let's not forget, guys, as this trades evenly, it actually doesn't, because Forte is behind.
Yeah,
Not only has he mined out his main, he's actually lifting it, bringing it to the third, so he's going to be, for a small time, just missing out on all that income period. He's already in a tough spot. Meanwhile, Billowy takes a 4th. So while Game 1 looked fantastic for our Terran, Game 2 is not providing those same results.
It's not, no. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that his opener was potentially denied by that second gas, but at the very least it was scouted, and that messes it up, you know, like having units in position, getting the robo on time for a 1-base Widowmine drop, and just denying it like Billowy did, and then responding correctly too, like actually getting that third base beyond that. There's not much Forte could do except hope his drops worked, and they didn't. Billowy, I guess he was like enough with these stupid drops, and he got a lot better at defending against them than on Dusk Towers. But Forte's not out of this game yet, but it's like he has one more good push.
Oh,
and then
he messed up landing the command center.
Oh, there we go.
We've all done that before. Ugh, it's so annoying.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Oh, well, the Warp Prism is going to complicate things, really. Forte doesn't have the time or economy, obviously, to take any Warp Prism shenanigans.
That's very true. I actually, if he goes in now, the army's still at home. He can still respond to it, but looks like not going to be the opportunities. He does push in the middle of the map. Now, this army from Forte is pretty all in, but it's also very strong. Like, there was a huge wall of adepts last time. There's a lot of adepts, don't get me wrong, but there's not that wall that's going to keep that bio back like before. So this is going to be scary. Forte does have quite the admirable army. This SCV's pulled with this too, by the way. Not sure if that's just for repairing or if that's to pull the boys, but
it might have just been because like the server's gonna be on attack anyways, but his natural's under attack now, so his mineral income's really gonna start to dip here. Still has a bank to reinforce a little bit, but it's really not about reinforcing. He's got to win very soon. Taking on a 4th base is good, and that actually would have been quite a lot had he still been mining and not lost the SCVs like he just did.
Yeah.
Or had them on the front line.
Billowy does buy himself a few more seconds. Like, with the base dying, there's more time to build more Immortals. Get more Adepts into that army. Guardian Shield gets popped, so you know he wants to take that fight. Blinks forward to pick off the Liberators. May have been a little bit risky, though, as it does put the Stalkers on the front line instead of the Adepts.
SCVs.
More
SCVs,
SCVs coming in. They've just got to soak hits. The Bio's got the damage, but does he have the health for it? I don't know. There's not a lot of medevacs left. It looks like he is going to die.
GG.
Oh, man. That got nasty. Things are now tied up 1-1. And we're going to go to game number 3. People are asking about the new widget on the page. That's what we're going to be talking about after this game, after the series concludes, guys. That's the small break we'll be taking from the tournament. So we are going to go to a small, just regular commercial break. Nothing too crazy. And we'll see you guys in 2 minutes as we get this last and final lobby set up. Don't know why things started freezing on me, but hitting Alt F4 was not something I wanted to do because we are on a stream delay. So that would have been awkward. We're going to get to game number 3, though. So welcome back to the TING Open. The T in TING stands for technical problems here on the stream. Not with the service, though. Yeah, great phone service. Just my computer's being a butt. But we are in game number 3. It's tied up 1-1. Winner of the series will go on to play a qualifying match against either Alive or, I believe, Keen. That series still not determined. In the bottom right side, though, of Frozen Temple, we do have the blue tier. And ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be Forte.
In the top left as the red Protoss, it is Billowy.
All right, so what are your thoughts on the way that game went, other than the all-in factor?
It was going to go poorly for Forte from the get-go.
Yeah, that gas steal, I feel really messed him up. Like,
yeah. Just being scouted really messed him up. And it's not like, 100% that Protoss will scout you. So it can be a very worthwhile risk to do something that doesn't necessarily depend on not being scouted, but it really helps if it's not.
Yeah, it wasn't like a proxy hidden in the corner of the map that like, oh, that got revealed at the last second. Like,
yeah. But if they get like for instance, if they're blocked out by supply depots or whatever your wall, and they don't know if it's a Wood mine drop, like right now even. Might just be enough lack of information. Hold on, Billowy. No, never mind. He saw the both gases. Well, anyway, if he was blocked out and he only saw that it was a one-base build, you're never quite sure what one-base build it is. Is it Hellion-based? Is it drop-based? Is it like even tank-based? I mean, some pushes, there's Cyclone pushes that exist from some Terrans here and there, and that's where you start to really get something from it, even if they know something is coming. They don't know exactly what. So definitely walling off with the reactor, not letting the probe getting back in is helpful. But the fact that it saw 2 gases already says that it's probably not like only a Wood mine drop. There's definitely going to be more to it.
Well, it's funny for me that you say here and there because it was like last season for Ting. We saw more than one. We talk about reality, but we had like 3 different people bust out those Cyclone builds that were not one defensive Cyclone, but mag field accelerator and destroying the faces of Protoss all over.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fun build. I mean, like, Ruff even used it, of course, but I guess it just, it's not dependable. That's for sure. But what is Forte doing here? So he got a tech lab on his factory, swapping it over to the starport. He's really gonna go for Banshees?
Yes,
he is gonna go for Banshees.
So,
it's not super surprising. It's something we still see every once in a while, but about as common as a Cyclone thing.
Let's talk about why this probably won't work, right? Like, you're going to have observers out to deal with what is potentially Widow Mines. I can't imagine that Cloak lets them get away with too much of the Banshee. I really like the idea, though, because if it is really Adept heavy, and there's not many Stalkers early on, a Banshee takes on 1 or 2 Stalkers with relative ease, especially if they don't have observers sitting on top of them. And I guess it'll help deal with, like, you don't get automatically Photon overcharged. But this Banshee plus Cloak is certainly unconventional.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And fortunately, it is kind of countered in not quite the same way, but, with similar things. Like, you have to have an observer if it's going to be a Wood mine drop. Okay, check that off the list. At least I have an observer so I can scout these damn Banshees. But you have to have pylons in the right position. Okay, usually that's a no-brainer for Protoss nowadays, whether it's a Wood mine drop or drops in the future. You got to have pylons in good position. The only thing that would be tricky is, like, If you think it's a Widowmine drop, you might warp in Adepts, which aren't helpful. If you think it's a tank push, you might get Immortals, which aren't that helpful.
Hang on, this is really interesting. That Banshee managed to dodge the Observer just barely. There is no second Observer at home. So this Cloaked Banshee is going to get to sit on top of this mineral line.
That is definitely awkward.
We also have some Marines looking to push through the front. They get kind of killed. I think he was hoping to catch the army a little more out of position, but that's 4 probes going down. The Marines didn't need to die, obviously, but I mean, Forte doesn't know that there's no detection. The Observer coming out now is going to be the only form of detection. So 8 probes go down for 1 Banshee. Like, this is very much worth that Banshee.
That timing on the Observer was so crucial, because it wasn't only about dodging the Observer, it was about the Observer getting the scout on the Starport Tech Lab just a little bit too late. So it sees it now, obviously, but the damage has been done. I mean, if he just keeps the Observer at home because he's like, what's happening, this is far less damage.
So he got 11 kills with 2 Banshees. The first Banshee goes down, second one doesn't really get a lot done, but this was certainly interesting to see something different shake it up. I know that I have in my shitty games tried using Banshees with Protoss to very little success, so kind of cool to seeing somebody actually pull it off.
Yeah. It was a surprise, and it had to be.
In my same shitty games, you know, it's, you go big or you go home. You don't go Banshees, you go battle cruisers.
Yeah, totally. Well, Billowy's, I guess, is going to try and attack. This could be a little dangerous if you didn't have an Observer, as, you know, a Banshee cloaking and free shots can be very, very dangerous. But he does have an Observer still over the army, scouting the production of Forte and realizing that it's really not that powerful. Banshee is denied simply by having an Observer and a Photon Overcharge, something that should have been the case from the get-go, but unfortunately wasn't for Billowy. And his attack could do a lot of damage.
That could have been repaired. I don't know why he didn't repair that bunker. That could have easily been held in that position.
I think that it wasn't necessary to repair it, and it just would have lost some SCVs.
Maybe. You're right, this wasn't necessary because it wasn't a follow-up push, but I guess Forte is just balls of steel in that situation. Now,
honestly, I think he doesn't react in time, but it worked out in his favor.
Yeah, it's kind of something I didn't want to have to say, but there's no detection in the middle of the map, so this Banshee could actually get some stalker kills here, for example. Not realizing this, though, it's hard to tell whether there is or isn't observers, and not going to play too risky with that Banshee. I do like the idea of sending it off to the main, though, once again, while the army attacks. So, again, everyone's looking at the front, you're not looking at the back. Boom, Banshee gets some kills, ideally, and hopefully.
There you go, getting a better situation with those tanks. A couple force fields go down, but it's still a pretty good Terran army. The Immortal was honestly the scariest thing, and it goes down.
If he loses too much of the bio, I mean, again, don't misunderstand cannon fodder for, like, expendability. Like, he needs those Marines to live for the tanks, so did get thinned out quite a bit. Banshee headed toward the main, only got about 2 probe kills, so not as great as its first counterpart.
No. Forte probably really wanted a longer, drawn-out push so that combat shields would have finished before losing those Marines. Unfortunately, not the case. Billowy, even though he lost his Immortal, still took a better engagement on top of that ramp than anywhere else. And now is looking okay. Forte still has that army supply lead. He's getting more Marines, more fodder for the... that's not even fodder, really. Like, tanks, they can be very helpful, obviously, and they can solidify a position, but it really is going to be eventually about that bio stimming and winning.
Well, it just unloads one Marine to hold the watchtower, SCV on the other one. So Forte's certainly got vision. He might not have observers, but he knows what's in the middle of the map. I really do like this Ghost Academy coming down, though. I think what's interesting is Legacy of the Void really has put a lot of emphasis on ghosts. Maybe not in the way it necessarily intended to, but either way, whether it's EMPs here, whether it's snipes there, although there's not really a lot of snipes I guess you can do in TVP, but still just EMPs in general are going to be really nice to see. I do miss the days of like snipe versus feedback on the Templar Wars, though. Those were always cool to see.
Oh yeah, they were hella fun. But I do wonder about getting ghosts this early. Again, ghosts are never like necessarily bad, but it's always like, is it worth their cost? And taking away from what could have been a lot more bio units. But he's going to attack. Might not even need ghosts. It's a fairly small Protoss army. Okay, more reinforcements coming in.
I think when it comes to ghosts, like, as long as that EMP hits like 5 or more units, it's gonna be worth it. The problem is like if we see him overinvest into him, that's where it gets a little bit worrisome. Because there's no Templar. He doesn't actually need ghosts. They're just a nice bonus to have.
Yeah, well, there's also no adepts or archons, which is like, another big reason is to have them. Or force fields are giving you trouble, which, is unlikely nowadays. But it's mostly like stalkers and immortals. And there's some adepts in there, and ghosts again, EMPs. They're always gonna, inflict damage on those shields, but it's always at the cost of a couple more buy units. I think that Forte's been in a good position for a while now, though, and he can certainly afford the ghost with his third base coming up, so it's
Yeah.
not that much of an issue.
I actually really
Oh,
like to.
huh. Pulling SCVs again?
It's
Huh.
interesting because he did this last time, and this is no small amount of SCVs. This is a good chunk of SCVs.
7, 9, something like that.
This is how you
Yeah,
deal with
very
oversaturation,
interesting.
I guess.
Either they're for repairing, or this is just going to become the new SCV pool.
I mean, if they can soak 2 hits each from the adepts, it's worth it. I feel keep the Marines alive a little bit longer, keep the Ghosts alive a little bit longer. But again, it's not adepts, it's stalkers and immortals. So I don't know. Like, I'm not a fan of these SCV pulls, but if they work, they work. We'll find out. Liberator's gonna find the position to siege up, and as he continues to just kind of leapfrog forward, tanks first, Liberator's next. I mean, they're getting good shots off. Every single hit's big.
There's an
EMP
EMP.
lands on top of the army. Immortals lose their shields.
There we
Barriers
go.
are on cooldown, and this is where that concave from Forte is starting to get really out of hand. 88 supply to 40, doubling the supply. This third base in a lot of trouble. Yes, the SCVs also died through this, but he's not looking at macro. He's looking to win.
Yeah, and he has one. There's still more units in the back.
GG.
GG.
So guaranteed 1 Terran here in the lower part of the bracket, because it will be either Forte, who moves on to the qualifying match, or Alive, who's also going to be playing for that qualifying spot. But let's talk about what's coming up, guys. We're going to play an ad from TING. We're going to play our own commercials, and we get some of this stuff set up. We got some really cool stuff sent out to us. We want to show you guys on stream. We want to talk about this potential new sponsor and all this good stuff. So please don't go anywhere. But if you are not interested in this stuff, I'll give you like a 10-minute-ish ballpark time frame for when we start games up again. So we'll see you guys here in just a moment as we play the device ad, I guess. We'll see you guys soon.